And we welcome you to the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty. And Chris, it's been another fabulous week. Welcome back to your show, and can't wait to talk about the program. We got some great guests talking about inventory and the world of realty, where we say we want to make your house a home.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Thanks for having me on my show, or our show. And, I just kind of wanted to chat a little bit with you about what's going on this past week, discuss inventory levels. And one of the things I wanted to touch about in this first segment was, I've been doing a lot of research on the market and historically what's happened around here. And I kind of wanted to share with listeners about, just in general, kind of where we were and kind of where we're heading, in my opinion. And not just really my opinion, but if you read a lot of our articles out there in general, what's going on, not just in Boise, but nationwide.
All right. So in essence, we're going to start out with a history lesson of sorts with Chris Lofthus. We're going to go back, Chris, roughly 7 years, 2005, kind of give a snapshot there, what's going on, because unfortunately, the reason we study history, we don't want to repeat it, but at the same time, it helps us to know what's going on out there. You got some great numbers to help out both buyers and, in particular, sellers today.
Yeah, and typically when you say history repeats itself, well, it surely does in real estate, as we know it does typically in the stock market, election years coming up. So there are very trackable items out there that we can use. And what I wanted to discuss a little bit is where we were. For example, back in 2005, you discussed just in Ada County, we talk about units sold, and we had 13,000 units sold in 2005. With an all-time low in 2010 of only 6,600 units sold, which is over half off of where we were back in the day. You look at the new construction numbers. Back in 2005, there was 2,200 homes. In 2011, there was only 690 sold, which was almost 70% off of where we were back in the heyday when it was really booming. When you look at those numbers and you look at what's going on today, and you look at how much new home sales are up, 31%. These numbers are just becoming staggering. Then you add the numbers in of actual active listings compared to what percentage of those are new construction, which is about 23, 24%. It's kind of one of those times we need to start discussing with these resale homeowners to get their houses on the market.
Yeah, I think the intriguing thing is when you look at the supply and you say, hey, 6 months is a healthy supply. That's kind of a good number to be on. And you said right now we're in the neighborhood of 4 months?
Yeah, right now we're at about 2,794 new and used homes that were listed in the Valley, which is about 4 months supply. And that's so if there was not another house listed again in 4 months, we'd be out of inventory. Typically, historically, 6 months is a very healthy supply. It's not typically a buyer's market, not typically a seller's market, more of kind of an even playing field. You start looking at the numbers, and this is why I keep going back to this new construction number. And we're up from last year. New construction is up 55% from this same quarter last year, which is an absolutely staggering number. And we talk about Ada County. Not to ignore Canyon County, but we talk about Ada County, and you look at 2,089 homes on the market last week. Now we drop another 50, going in the wrong direction, as opposed to when we see spring's coming, people are putting their houses on the market, and everything's popping. But then you look at under new construction, and you got 20% of the market's new construction and going up.
You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty. You can check out Chris's website at chrislofthus.com. That's CHRISLOFTHUS.com, or you can send him an email at contactus@clgeagle.com, CLG as in Chris Lofthus Group. Or you can also make a phone call to 350-6228, 350-6228. Chris, why do you think homeowners aren't putting their homes on the market?
I think it's we talk about this every week. We talk about consumer confidence. You mentioned just a little bit ago about people still being upside down. When I look at these numbers in general, it's kind of a question for everybody. I think a lot of it is the fact that people aren't sure if it's a seller's market or if it's a buyer's market. So we kind of have this chess match, like we've discussed, week after week, of what's going on. But you look at new construction numbers, for example. they're up. So sales price for new construction sold, you look, they're up again. So 2010 they were 163. They're up to 190 last year. Now they're at 211,000. So that new construction sold price is climbing. It's climbing at a fast rate.
Yeah. So if I take a snapshot, and I've shared with you this before, and you know where I live in Meridian and Paramount, I see a lot of, there's two houses going up across the street from me. They're opening up new blocks, but for the most part, I don't see current homes with for sale signs on them. Somebody lives there and says, hey, we're going to sell our home. Is that a pretty good snapshot indicator of what's going on?
Yeah, there's no question. It's a perfect snapshot of what's going on. And I think that people are looking at this new construction going up and they're questioning whether, hey, do I hold on to my house or am I making a move? But it comes down to individual preference. And so what's the plan? Are your kids graduating, in the next 2 or 3 years? Do you want to downsize? So when you look at those numbers and those decisions people need to make, I'm actually very much shocked that there's not more houses on a weekly basis sliding onto the market and getting us more to that 6-month inventory level overall in Ada and Canyon County.
Yeah, and I will encourage you, and not just because it's his show, but Chris has helped me out as far as just getting a snapshot and looking at your home, finding out in essence what they talk about, comparisons or comps. Chris will look at that. You'll come by, give people ideas. And you're also obviously not afraid to tell them, look, it's probably not a good time for you to sell.
Yeah, of course. And that's what we do as a company. And my biggest, our goal is to give you advice on the fact that says, hey, you know what? Maybe you should sit on your house for a couple of years. You're underwater, whatever your situation is, whether you need to move or not. But our goal is to give you the best advice possible.
Chris, what traditionally, and of course I look at it and say, all right, the sun's shining, spring is here, May, school's getting ready to get out. Is that premier time for selling your home, or is it a little later? Or it just always my sense is in the spring, a lot of activity going on. What's the real world from your perspective?
Well, yeah, I always say there's no better time than now, no matter what. Back again to what your goals are, because the fact of the matter is you don't know if there's a buyer that wants to buy your house that's sitting out there today and there's no inventory. So the fact of the matter is, if you have a buyer that's buying a $400,000 house in Meridian, and their goal is to have 5 bedrooms, 5 bath, whatever their goal is for their family. But if that product's not out there and you have that product, that's why you want to get with a professional and come to somebody and say, look, hey, we have a 5 bedroom, 5 bath house, which is a very attractive feature right now in the marketplace because there's very limited supply of those.
Right.
So when you look at that, you talk to a professional and they say, you know what, God, right now, if someone was looking between $300,000 and $400,000 in Meridian and needed a 5 bedroom, 5 bath home, there's not even one on the market. So I'm not saying that's necessarily true because it's always changing, but the fact of the matter is you'd be in a pretty good situation price-wise if you had no competition.
Yeah. Are you having a particular number of requests? I know Jerry was on the show last week talking about, the resale and elements that she's looking for. Are you getting calls where they say, hey, Chris, I'm looking for a house that's $350,000 to $450,000 or $150,000? What does it seem like you're getting a lot of requests for?
Well, it's right now, it's kind of like I always call it the quagmire in the middle, but the low end stuff, and here's kind of what my concern is, what's going on with the market right now. With the 150, 180 range, we're starting to get phone calls with investors. So now you see these houses pop on the market, like Jerry mentioned last week, who's a buyer's agent for us, and she mentioned last week, they pull up in front of a house that's listed for $180,000. There's 5 other realtors there. She wrote an offer, and I think we wrote it 15, 18% higher than the asking price because they asked for best and final offer, and we lost out on the house. So somebody ran that price up over, I don't remember where it started, but somebody ran that price up 22, 23% from original asking price, which is insane. So you start thinking, okay, is that an investor? Is that just somebody that sees an opportunity in the marketplace? That's doing extremely well. And the other number I see that's going to really, really pop is that 500,000 plus range in the Boise foothills and Eagle. Eagle, especially when you start looking at what's going on in inventory levels in Eagle, when you start looking at 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 dollar houses, and how the market's been kind of in a little bit of a lull right now, that market's going to pop.
ChrisLofthus.com. If you've missed any of the programs or there was somebody we did a particular interview with, Annette has posted those, ChrisLofthus.com, and just click on the Real Estate Radio Show icon. Remember, you can also reach out to us at 350-6228, 350-6228. Chris, as you do each and every week, you bring on fabulous guests, a place that I've spent some time at. I'm a big fan of Pristine Pool and Spa right there, and we've talked about all the growth on Eagle Road. Just a beautiful place, and I always say the best-kept secret's the grotto down below where we've had, I think I had Coach Peterson down there and some of the Eagle High School football players. But first class, everything they do. And tell us about TJ Brown and Pristine Pool and Spa, why you've invited them on the show today.
Well, I couldn't put a bigger stamp of approval on not just a company, but just a person in general for TJ and what he does and where he's came from and the things he's accomplished in his life, not only with his pool company, but just himself in general. Love the way he treats his customer. I love the fact that, again, we always talk about talent and having talent around you, but I love the fact that if a client of mine wants to build a pool, we pass him over to TJ. TJ is going to be fair with him. He's going to give him a reasonable price that's going to be very competitive with his competition. Although I personally don't feel like he has any competition in the valley here, just because his product is so far superior than everyone else's. But I know that he's going to get the job done and he's going to get it done on time.
All right, so we're going to hear from TJ, kind of how he got started in the business, the history of the company. Then we're really going to dig in what he can do for you, the complete backyard, the 5 elements you must know, and a couple other pieces, including his world-famous, if you will, outdoor cooking classes as we continue on. The Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty. Back with more after this.